الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. There are a lot of challenges and a lot of problems that we see in the world today. There's a lot of corruption we see in the world. There's a lot of ideological challenges and threats that are widespread around the world today. And many times we want to try to figure out how to stop them, how to protect our families, our children from those things. For example, the hypersexuality in the world today, the questioning of Allah Azza wa Jalla's existence, the secularization of society, and the many other issues that we see today. We see them in TV shows. Most of them nowadays have elements of this as a necessary, integral part of their storyline. The LGBTQ narrative is pretty much in most shows, if not every single show, movie that's out there. There has to be a lead character that has these things. The question is, how does it start and why does it start and how does it continue? A lot of times we talk about how there's a lot of money being poured into this stuff. There's a lot of people that are promoting this. And sometimes you might feel overwhelmed and confused as to how to stop and prevent this. When the Hudhud came to Sulaiman alayhi salam, he mentioned about a lady whose people worship the sun. It said, وَجَدْتُهَا وَقَوْمَهَا يَسْجُدُونَ لِلشَّمْسِ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ. And I found her and her people making sajda to the sun instead of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And he said, وَزَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُم. And Shaitan had beautified their actions for them. فَصَدَّهُمْ عَنِ السَّبِيلِ فَهُمْ لَا يَهْتَدُونَ. And so he misguided them away from the path of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and they're not guided at the end, they don't have the guidance. Fast forward until the end. On the Day of Judgment, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ. That when the matter has been decided, Shaitan is going to say, Allah Azza wa Jalla promised you a true promise, and I also promised you, but I broke it. وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي. I didn't have any authority over you except that I called you and you responded to me. فَلَا تَلُومُونِي وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. So don't blame me, but blame yourself. مَا أَنَا بِمُصْرِخِكُمْ وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُصْرِخِي. That you're not going to be able to help me, and I'm not going to be able to help you. I'm not going to be able to help you, you're not going to be able to help me. إِنِّي كَفَرْتُ بِمَا أَشْرَكْتُمُونِي مِنْ قَبْلِ. I am dissociating from anything that you associate with me in the past. إِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. And for the unjust, for those who did sins unjustly, those who did wrong against themselves or other people, they're going to have a very severe punishment. in Surah Al-Hashr, Allah Azza wa Jalla describes this as well, that when a person does something bad, Shaitan says to that person, Inni bari'un mink, Inni akhafu Allah Rabbul Alameen, that I dissociate myself from you. I fear Allah Azza wa Jalla, the Lord of everything. So now let's go back to the beginning of where it all started. In Surah Al-A'raf, in the beginning, Allah Azza wa Jalla discusses the story of Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam. And in this story, and it's mentioned in other places in the Quran in bits, but this is a little bit more, this portion right here is something that I want to emphasize a little bit more. And that is, in the story when Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam are told to eat from anywhere they wanted. Throughout Jannah, they could eat from anywhere, except in one tree. And from that one tree, they couldn't have anything. But then Shaitan comes to them and tells them, then I am a very sincere advisor to you. وَقَاسَمَهُمْ, and he also swear by Allah Azza wa Jalla. And he deceived them. When he deceived them, they ate from the tree and their private parts became apparent to them. And this is where the matter really lies. This is where I really want to focus on. And that is, when that happened, immediately Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam, they felt regret, they felt remorse, they felt grief that they had distanced themselves from Allah Azza wa Jalla in this way. And they, in the tafsir, it's mentioned that they started getting away, trying to hide themselves. And Allah Azza wa Jalla asked, do you run from me? And Adam alayhi salam responds that I'm shy of you. إن استحييتك. And in this state of sincerity, he felt that regret and just wanted a way to make amends with Allah Azza wa Jalla. And to make amends with Allah Azza wa Jalla, in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions, فَتَلَقَى آدَمُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ كَلِمَاتٍ فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ. When a person is sincere, Allah Azza wa Jalla guides them to make tawbah. In this case, Allah Azza wa Jalla gave them words they could say. Because of that sincerity, Allah Azza wa Jalla told him He guided him in how to make tawbah. And he said, رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. They admitted their guilt, and they said, رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. What does it mean that you do injustice towards yourself? What does it mean that you're oppressing yourself? Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions in a different part of the Quran, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. What does that mean that you have israf against yourself? So the real story is, when Allah Azza wa Jalla told Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam to go down to earth, He also told Shaitan, of course, to get out of that place. But He mentioned about Shaitan, he's a clear enemy. And in Surah Yasin, as you know, Allah Azza wa Jalla also mentions, on the Day of Judgment, He's going to ask Did I not tell you not to worship shaitan? إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ, that he's definitely a clear enemy to you. So from the very beginning until the very end, the real enemy, the clear enemy is shaitan. And because of his jealousy of mankind, which is why he didn't make sajda to Adam alayhi salam when Allah Azza wa Jalla asked him to. He said, I am better than him, أنا خير منه, because you made me, خلقتني من طين وخلقته من نار, خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. That you made me from the fire and you made him from just dirt, clay. So from that day one, that jealousy that he had for mankind, because they had a way out, they had a way to Allah Azza wa Jalla, they had a way to Jannah. That jealousy made him devote his entire life, and he asked Allah Azza wa Jalla to be given respite until the day of judgment. There is a point I want to make here, that Allah Azza wa Jalla gave both of them, answered both of their du'as, because Adam alayhi salam asked for forgiveness, and shaitan asked for respite until the day of judgment. Even shaitan, his du'a was answered by Allah Azza wa Jalla. Of course, he made the wrong one. But it's important to note over here that Allah Azza wa Jalla gave them both what they wanted. In this case, the point that I want to make here is that from the day one, he dedicated his life to deceiving mankind. And as you can look at when you get a chance, inshallah, the first couple of pages of Surah Al-A'raf, this whole conversation that's happening, and what he promises to do to us, how he promises to come to us from our left, from our right, from our front, back, everywhere, to misguide us. He made this his goal, his mission. And in reality, a lot of times when we get confused about why there are problems in the world, we forget the shaitan and his awliya have dedicated their lives to misguide us. It is often not the person that I'm having an argument with. It is not often my friend, my family member, whoever it might be. Even when we commit sins, we attribute them to ourselves, of course, because we slipped up, we let shaitan come to us. But really, the ongoing waswas that we might get is from shaitan and his awliya. The LGBTQ narrative, the atheism stuff, all of those things ultimately come back to this being that had dedicated his entire life and asked Allah Azza wa Jalla to give him respite until the day of judgment. Now, of course, Allah Azza wa Jalla, he counters that by giving us guidance, making sure that whoever it is that's guided, and this is where the hope comes in. As long as you're staying on what Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us to do, as long as you're trying your best, Allah Azza wa Jalla will always forgive you. Even a person who has done a great injustice, even a person who has committed major sins, Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned he'll forgive him. In fact, not only that, he promised that a person who makes tawbah, Allah Azza wa Jalla will change his good deeds into bad deeds. إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا فَأُولَٰئِكَ يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. The person who repents, really makes tawbah, admits his guilt, commits to never doing this again, and trying his best to make sure that he follows up with good deeds. He believes that Allah Azza wa Jalla will forgive him, and then he follows it up with good deeds, trying to make up the bad that he has done. Not only is the bad going to be erased, but also Allah Azza wa Jalla يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ, will replace or change the bad deeds into good deeds. Even if you commit major sins, Allah Azza wa Jalla is promising that as long as you're making tawbah, Allah Azza wa Jalla will turn this around for you. even that act that you did could become for you and your records a good deed. So when it comes to Allah Azza wa Jalla, there's always hope. There's also always clarity. But when we get away from Allah Azza wa Jalla because we make the wrong choices, we don't see the shayateen around us. We don't see the angels around us. But we have a qareen who whispers to do good. In Surah Qaf, Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions two kinds of qareen. One that whispers to us to do good, and one that whispers to us to do bad. And the bad one, of course, is from the jinn, among the bad jinn. And this waswas continues with us. It is our choice ultimately on whether we want to listen to the advice that Allah Azza wa Jalla gives, to the guidance of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the encouragement of the good qareen, the angel qareen, or we choose the other route. But even if we choose the other route, and I want to close with this, inshallah. Allah Azza wa Jalla says about even a person who does this, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. Even if you have committed a great injustice against yourself, you have transgressed against yourself, do not despair the mercy of your Lord. Do not think that that you've committed something so big that Allah Azza wa Jalla, how would He forgive something like that? There is always hope with Allah Azza wa Jalla. And when you feel lost, when you feel overwhelmed in society, and your challenges daily, and you're making istikhara, it's confusing, I don't know what to do. When you feel that overwhelmed, when you feel that distress, remember that Allah Azza wa Jalla intended ease for us. His guidance is supposed to clarify everything for us. When you feel lost, this guidance is what brings you hope. That no matter how bad things seem, Allah Azza wa Jalla is still in control. You will still get your reward for your efforts. And as long as you stick to the habit of Allah Azza wa Jalla, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا, and you do it together, you support one another, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, and Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, then you will surely be guided. You will not be left astray. You will not be left alone. No matter what happens at the end, just make sure that you connect back to the clarity that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given us. Because He promised Adam alayhi salam when He sent him down, فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي هُدًى فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Whenever my guidance comes to you, and if you follow it, whoever follows my guidance, then that person is not going to have any stress, any worries, any fear. And another ayah, فَلَا يَضِلُّ وَلَا يَشْقَى. That person is not going to be misguided or in a difficult situation. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.